Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Saturday morning gaming show. Actually, I wanted to change.
What is this? Amateur hour?
Yeah, okay.
Oh my gosh. This is our 6th episode.
It is, but I wanted to say this episode name in there, so
Okay,
everyone,
ready?
Okay.
Go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the Saturday morning gaming show. I am your co-host, Ryne, and I'm joined here today by...
Your other co-host, Lobos.
Hey, Lobos.
Hi.
Like I said, we're playing Shadowgate, and that was released in North America July 30th, 1987.
Right after I was born. When I was born, I was like, all right, Nintendo games, I want this game. And they were like, okay. So then, however many months later, 6 months, 5 months,
And
they made it.
I'm really glad that they made this to celebrate the birth of Lobos, because it is truly a special game. What's really interesting about it is it's very, very dark. It's very grim.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
There's a lot of deaths that are very described in a very visceral way.
Definitely.
And you look at Nintendo back then and Nintendo now, and this would not have passed the Nintendo stamp of family friendliness that they typically go for there.
Yeah, it's this game actually like had some moments that really scared me as a kid, which understandable, because as I play through it as an adult, I'm like, oh my gosh, they said this, they're like in such gruesome detail, or like the pixel art is just something that, especially since it's like still shot and nothing's really animated, you just kind of see it there staring at you, and your imagination does the rest, and you're like, oh gosh.
So let's talk a little bit about the art style, because this is very dark fantasy gothic. You know, you think of like the old Conan type movies of the 1980s, and it's like, you know, there's skulls everywhere, and there's ritualistic artifacts, and it's just like very evocative of that 1980s swords and sorcery, which I love, absolutely love.
Yeah, and the game is a point-and-click adventure, such that you have basically a screen that shows you like whatever room you're in, and you have a bunch of actions you can take, like look, take, use, open, close, hit, things like that, and you can just try and interact with everything around the room and see what works and see what doesn't. There's a lot of trial and error that's involved. Yeah.
So that's a great point there. A lot of it is you kind of learn by dying, but the deaths are pretty. I want to say they don't impact you that much.
They're not too punishing. You pretty much always just get knocked back one room, and it gives you kind of a default amount of time on your torch, which we didn't talk about yet, is kind of a mechanic in the game. You have this torch that's lit, and after you perform a certain amount of actions, that is looking, moving, whatever, the torch will start to dwindle, and then this kind of creepy music will play. And eventually, if you don't do anything, your torch will go out, and it's a game over, because you're stumbling around this empty, dark castle. And
basically hit your head and you bleed out.
Yeah.
So we're at the very start of the game here, and it opens up with a very memorable line. It's, you know, it says, "The last thing you remember is standing before the wizard Lackmare."
Sounds like all my D&D campaigns.
That's a great start. I love it. As he gestured wildly, enchanted in an archaic tongue. Now you find yourself staring at an entryway which lies at the edge of the forest. The druid's words. Now I want to point that's kind of interesting, because they talk about him being a wizard and then immediately calls him a druid. So my D&D is like, well, technically that's not right. You can't have you could dual classing.
Dual class, man. Come on.
The druid's words still ring in your ears. Within the walls of the Castle Shadowgate lies your quest. If the prophecies hold true, the dreaded warlock lord will use his dark magic to raise the Behemoth, the deadliest of the titans, from the depths of the earth. You are the seed of prophecy, the last of the line of kings, and only you can stop the warlock lord from darkening our world forever. Fare thee well. So, again, I think I would put this... I like it because it sets up the scene. It's fantastic, and in my mind, it's very much like the Zork opening of you stand outside of a white house with a mailbox, right? It's one of those. It's just it's really cool.
It sets you up, and you're basically just right in front of the castle, and there's a big door, and like an archway around the door, some rocks on the side, and not much else. So typically on your first playthrough, you're like, okay, go in the door. And then there's this hallway, and these giant burning eyes appear, and the evil warlock lord kind of like says some stuff to you, intimidates you, whatever. And then there's some more doors, and then these doors are locked, and you're like, well, I don't see any keys.
Yep. And I got stuck. I remember I messaged you on Facebook, and I was like, okay, 5 minutes into Shadowgate, I'm already stuck. Because I'd honestly spent 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out there's a carpet. I'm like, all right, burn the carpet, and you can, and nothing happens. And I think there's tapestries also maybe you can burn, and maybe that's somewhere else. But I got stuck, and here's the clue I had, though, and I don't know if you notice this. And again, this might be an emulation issue, but if you hit things, the screen changes to little like Batman thing that
like
says
a comic book like
pow or something.
Pow.
Right?
Yeah.
But maybe in the way that they render the layering of these images, you see a split second of like if there's like a little chest type thing above, and then there's like the inset where the key is.
Right. So what unloads it really quickly.
Yeah,
and you can
so
see
what
it.
you're supposed to do is they have the cover, and you're supposed to open the cover, and that slides up. So when you hit it, what happens is the cover actually disappears briefly. Now you can't see anything under it, but you know that there is something in there. And that happens a couple times in the game. Like there's the place with later on there's the king, and there's a thing that's supposed to slide down, and the same thing happens. You can hit and see there's something behind there. So any case,
so I think that's stuff you wouldn't necessarily figure out as a kid, because it's just like unless you know how.
I was like, okay, there's got to be something. Again, this game was remade in 2014.
Yes.
It's also I say if you like this game, you should definitely check it out, because that game is bigger and it's more atmospheric there. But I do remember, I vaguely remembered, like I thought there was something that had to do with this skull here. So I was like, hit the skull, use the skull. I think ultimately you have to open the skull.
Yep, open.
And that's one thing that this game is very finicky on. It's like you cannot use a door. You must open the door. And modern adventure games have gotten a little bit better about that sort of context. It's like when you say use a door, you know what you mean.
Right.
There's other situations where you need to combine items, and you have to combine them in a certain order. Right. So later on, we're going to have a sling. And you cannot, so there's a sling and then there's rocks. You cannot use the sling on the rocks. You must use the rocks on the sling.
Well, yeah, that makes sense, right? You don't bang the sling against the rock. It's just...
Absolutely, yeah.
No, but yeah, you have to kind of approach things in that way and think like, would I put this in this or this in that? But some of it doesn't necessarily make sense. After those first two rooms, you finally get through that wooden door. You enter this other room, and there's like some torches and like a book on a pedestal. And at this point, you're like, okay, I take everything. And if you take the book, the floor falls out from underneath you, and you die. And I think that's possibly the first way you can die besides your torch running out. And at that point, you should realize like, oh, this game's going to kill me a lot. And there are a lot of deaths in this game. I don't know what number, but there's a ton, and they're all great.
And I absolutely love them because, like you said, I played this as a child, and I remember one of the deaths was like, you fall down a pit and you break your legs, and you slowly die. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's such a horrible death. But
I did that death yesterday. You jump out a window. It's like you plummet to the ground, and you hit the ground, and both your legs are broken.
But in sort of a sadistic way, though, I enjoyed seeing like, give me the description of how I die here.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it was actually kind of funny. I was looking around the internet, and it turns out that Japan had wildly different translations, and some of them are in the death scenes, and I wanted to read one out because I thought it was funny. So apparently in the English version, you can use the torch on your head 3 times and set your hair on fire. So in English, the thing says, you finally set your hair on fire, the rest of your body soon follows. Okay, so that's pretty morbid, but in Japan, it says, yarg, my hair, it's burning. The burn spread across my body. I writhe in pain as I breathe my last.
Like he's saying it like, ah.
Well, that's
I didn't
the thing.
know this would happen.
In Japan, apparently the translation was all first person.
Oh,
So you're describing
interesting.
the death that is happening to you. Where in the English version, the North American version, I always assumed that the Grim Reaper was the one that was explaining your death to the. I don't know.
I just assumed there was some narrator, and
Yeah.
I always thought that. So as text goes across the screen, there's this quill that's kind of like writing everything out, and I used to think that the quill was a fish, and so in my mind, like this fish was telling me all of this thing, some magical fish narrating everything, and I don't know. See, it just looks like a weird fish.
Okay, now I gotta look to see if it does look like a fish.
Well, it's quick. I don't know.
To me, it looks like a
Look,
quail.
all right, don't worry about it. I'm just telling you what happened, not to believe it.
Okay.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of very memorable parts in this game. One of which on the screen we just exited was this room where you enter and it's like a dragon's lair, and you can see eyes off in the distance in this really narrow kind of hallway, and there's all these goodies in front of you, and you're like,
You want to pick them all up.
I want some goodies. So
There's like treasure. There's a chest. There's there's like not a sword, shield and a spear.
Yeah,
a
a helmet, some skulls, some bones. If you take anything other than the shield, you're immediately incinerated by the dragon. Because when you grab the shield, you just hold it up and block the fire. And it's like,
because it's a metal shield.
Right, it is a metal shield.
And so the first time you pick up the shield, you can pick up the 3 other items.
And
then the fourth one,
like that.
The shield melts, but if you pick up the 3 items, then leave, and I guess maybe that's like letting your shield cool down or something.
Cool down, yeah.
Then you come back, then you can pick up another item,
and you can keep doing that. But if you take 2 in a row, I think it melts.
Yeah, so you can get everything in the room except for the chest. I don't think the chest actually has anything.
No, you can try to open it, but it's like too heavy, and it's like nothing opens.
Yeah, so after that, we actually headed over to the sarcophagus room, and you kind of open up all the sarcophagi. Is that a word? I hope so.
Probably.
And so there's a couple of different ones here, and the one I just opened up was like a banshee that comes out and screams at you. And in this game, it doesn't do anything, but actually, I think in the remake, that one actually curses you.
Oh,
right?
It does curse you. That's the one that that's a core mechanic of the thing is you having this curse.
And I think you actually have to open that one. In this one, you don't have to open the banshee thing. But the next thing you can open up is a green slime thing there, and it kind of comes out as like a corrosive acid.
Yeah. So this slime covers the ground, and then it stays there for the rest of the game. And if you try to move past it, your character walks through it and gets just dissolved by it, basically.
Yeah, and there's no way to clean that up. So if you let it out, you basically have removed a path for you, like a shortcut.
Yeah.
So it's better to leave that out of the equation. But so those are the 2 things on the left. Actually, there's a third one, which I thought was a sarcophagus that was already opened. Turns out that's actually a door.
That's the path, you take, yeah.
Yeah, and so those are all the ones on the left, and on the right, there's 2 you can open, and there's 1 you can't. So the 2 that the one in the middle has like a bag you can open, and it has a bunch of copper coins, and then the one that's closest to the screen has a mummy.
Yes.
And of course, you burn the mummy.
That's the first thing you do in this game is try to burn everything.
Burn everything, including your hair, apparently.
That's right.
And the mummy leaves behind a scepter, and that's needed much later in the game.
Boy, I enjoy seeing, it's kind of nostalgic seeing how you're trying to point at something on the far right of the screen, and it bumps over to your inventory because the screen is split. Like top left is image that you see, top right is your inventory. And if they put something on the very far right of the screen and you're using a D-pad to move this cursor, it's not very smooth and kind of jumps, and it'll just jump to your inventory.
Yeah, and that was actually problematic for me because there were some doors that are sort of slim because they're this game has perspective in it, so things like hallways will kind of slant in, and things on the far end of the hallway will be smaller. And so occasionally it'll be like, okay, I'm going to use the key on the door, and it's like, oh, this doesn't work, and you're like, okay. And you can assume that the key doesn't work, but in fact, you actually do have the key, and you just hit the wall.
You didn't point at the 6 pixels that you needed to.
Yeah, so many times you see me like maybe trying the same thing 3 or 4 times because I'm like, okay, did I actually get it? And then Yeah. So I actually got stuck on one area because I'm like, I don't know where to go, and it's like, oh, you just use this key here.
One of the parts that people get stuck on again is you enter this screen and there's stones on the ground, there's a river, there's a waterfall, and there's this passageway, but it's completely like avalanche, like blocked by rocks, and you're like, okay. And at a point, you kind of need some stuff, something to interact with these little button holes in the wall, and you're not sure what you do with that, but maybe after a bunch of experimentation or finally looking it up, you can actually move. You use the move action and then click on the screen in between the waterfall and like the wall, and your character will walk right through it. But I don't think you can click move on the waterfall.
You can't.
That has to be in between. So
yeah, and so most of the game, when you look at the so it's kind of rendered into 4 different scenes. You've got the actual images of like the room you're looking in, and then the inventory. You know, Lobos talked about how that was broken up. So that's like the top half of the screen. The bottom half of the screen is your verbs, so look, open, whatever. And then on the bottom left is actually almost like a representation, like a 2D map that just shows you entrances that are entrances and exits
that you know about.
Yeah. And I think this is the only one that's not actually rendered in there. So
I think there's a couple, but it's rare that they do that. Yeah.
Oh, that's
like
true.
There's
yeah.
one right
there's
there.
one right here.
Although I think it opens up once you
in the secret hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to that waterfall room there, this was one that I actually was kind of confused, and I had a note written down because they have, like you said, the pathway that's blocked, but you can't do anything about that. It's not like you can get a shovel and clear that out, but there is a move icon there, so it's like you can try to move there, but you just never can.
Right.
And they have some weird things like that. Here's another situation of that where you're in the secret hallway, and it has an arrow on the far side,
right,
and then like a ledge and a doorway over the ledge. And if you try to climb up that ledge, it just crumbles.
Yep.
And then you can't get there. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's something where you think you can go, and then you try, and something happens, and then you can't go. And so it's kind of a debate. It's like, yeah, you thought, but maybe there's some other way out of this room.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, because there actually is. There's torches on the left and the right side, and if you look at the torches, so there's actually torches in many of the rooms. If you look at the torches, it's just like this torch is like a wet or oiled rag and whatever, and you can pick it up and use it. But one of the torches, it actually doesn't say, it has a different description. It says something like, this is a sturdy torch.
It's like attached to the wall. Yeah, also, you can't take it. They're the only torches in the game you can't take.
And I also do think it said that was recently, it looks like it was recently added or something like that. So ultimately, what you want to do is pull that torch there.
Yeah,
and
use it. And then it opens a secret door and kind of lets you on your way.
Yeah.
Another iconic room here is the lake. There's this big lake on most of this.
With a shark?
There's always a shark. When you enter the room, you see the shark swim by, and it's like,
no, it doesn't do anything to you in this game. You can't get eaten by it.
Right? You can.
Wait, how?
If you move into the water, it's like the shark quickly feasts on you.
If you click move and then hit the water.
And click on the water, yeah. So there's a skeleton out in the middle of the lake holding a key, and you're like, well, I need that key. So how do I get it? So after you figure out the whole thing with the waterfall, you find some gems back there. You can use these gems to unlock, or you put it into the wall, and this pedestal activates, and this sphere appears. And if you look at the sphere, that says it's very cold to the touch.
Yeah, and actually the room that you're in says it like stinks of meat in here. So I wonder if that's like a meat locker or something. I don't know. What
could be. I thought maybe that was a reference to the dragon in the next room.
Yeah, absolutely could be.
Because there's like bones and stuff in there, but who knows?
Yeah.
But anyways, you grab this sphere, and once you figure it out, you can toss that into the lake, and that freezes the lake, which allows you to go grab the key.
Yeah. But you actually need that sphere again.
But you need that sphere again, and that is probably there's so many things I think about in this game, and I think about like somebody playing it for the first time, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna get stuck there so much.
There are actually a couple clues in the game. I wish that they were better, but if you hit at least on it was like on the NES, it was like the select button or the start button. You can get little clues sometimes.
Wow, I forgot about that.
Most of them just say, don't give up, keep trying. But
Right.
that one, if you do it in that room, it said some items have more than one use.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, oh yeah, okay. If I use the torch, so what happens? You throw this orb in the water, and it becomes iced, and then there's the orb at the bottom of the water. If you use the torch on the water, then that unfreezes it. It floats to the top, refreezes, and then you can grab the orb, and you'll need that later on in the game.
Yeah, you do.
And so, actually, we're getting to the part where you'll need it, but you climb up some staircases after passing these dual bridges, and there's a wraith there. And I think this is the first point in the game that I really got stuck.
Yeah.
Because it just kind of sits there. It doesn't do anything that gives you an indication of what you would need to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, all right, well, I am a seasoned D&D player. I know wraiths are susceptible to holy magic,
Right.
fire,
Sure.
holy water. So I'm like, all right, well, what do I have here? Oh, I have a torch. So I pick up my stack of torches. And I'm like, I get away, and it's like, this doesn't do anything.
You're like, use torch,
Yeah.
and it's like you light the torch, and then it just adds to your
And
time
I'm like,
limit.
okay, well,
You're
that's
like,
not it. Well, it's actually, that is the solution there. It's just I'm using the wrong torch. So there's a special torch you pick up, and I don't remember where you get this.
I never remember where it is. I think it might be in the room with the books, or maybe even in the. I don't think it's in the room that he's in. But yeah, like if in your inventory, you'll stack up torches and it'll say like torch equal like 5 if you have 5. But this one does not stack and it's on its own.
Yeah, but it just says torch. Now, actually, interestingly enough, I read that on computer versions, the special torch that you need to defeat the Wraith is a different color, glows green, and can be lit at any time. Whereas in the NES version, you can only light it when you're in the Wraith scene there.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I believe actually the computer versions, I looked at the inventory, and it's like a colorized thing where you can see the items.
Interesting.
And so they're not just names. That again, that's the big issue with this is, you have torch equals 3, and then just torch, and you're like, what's the difference between these two?
Yeah, yeah.
And you can look at the items, and sometimes they will provide you some clues. But I don't remember if the torch gave you any clue that this was a unique thing.
It reads differently, and then again you have to use. You go to use, and then you click on your lit torch at the top that shows your kind of time limit, and then you click on the individual torch that's special, and then it works. If you try to use that torch on the Wraith, I don't even think it does anything. So it's like
again, really finicky on the order of operations here.
Yeah.
But after that, you go into this room that says Epor, E-P-O-R, in a sign. It actually looks like it's written in blood or something. It's kind of an orangish blood, but the text is like kind of dripping down.
Wow.
And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, rope. Okay, yeah, I know that. It spells rope.
And there's a rope in the middle of the floor coiled
and
up.
so you look at it, and it just says, this sign says Epor. And it's like, great. Okay. Now, again, this is one of those where there's a clue that will tell you. It says some things need to be investigated twice.
Oh.
And so you look at it again, and the guy's like, Epor. Oh, that's rope. It's like, yeah, I know. And then so you get your first magical spell.
Yes.
Which is Epor. Now, this one, I think the magical spells here were a little weird because they didn't really adhere to any sort of common naming convention. When I saw Epor, I was like, okay, cool. They're gonna take all the spell names and just reverse them,
put them backwards.
Yeah, but they kind of just go all over the place. They just pick up random words to really sell the thing. So I'll just, while we're talking about spells, recite some of the other spells. So there's Humana, there's Tarak, there's Illuminia, and then Motari. So some of these spells you can tell what they do, like illuminate.
Yeah,
that's okay. You can guess there's a light there. The actual full name of Tarak is like,
it's Terra Tarak.
Terra Tarak,
and Terra's like earth or world.
And so you can be like, okay, this is something to do with the ground.
Yeah. Motari riseth.
Yeah, that's right. So
something rises.
Something rises, and then you have Humana, and it's like, well, this is the only spell that really doesn't give me any indication what it is.
Yeah.
And so actually, we'll just talk about what that is. It actually renders you invisible.
But every spell pretty much has one specific use case, like one screen where you need to use it, and that's it. And, which is kind of nice because if you could use it everywhere, you could be like, use it and then be like, okay, nothing special happened, but maybe you had to use it and then do something else. That just increases the amount of things you have to try. So
and so that the room where you learn Epor is the first room and the only room you use that spell because there's a rope there. And this is the room. If you climb, you can climb up the rope here, and you find these 3 mirrors, which I think this is actually a shortcut. You can go to the sarcophagus room from this. But if you go to if you go from the sarcophagus room into the 3 mirror room, and you don't have the rope from below, and you try to jump down, it's like you break your legs and you die a horrible death. So it's great.
We skimmed over a quick thing in the rope room. There's like an outline of a door in the back wall, and if you can open that door, and then you go in, and there's like a thing on the ground. It looks kind of familiar if you used the gems to get the sphere already, and you're like, oh, I should put a gem in this ground.
Actually, it didn't look familiar to me at all.
Oh, really? Oh,
because it's like a circle, but then there's a bunch of little dots.
Right.
And also, the description is it looks like it can hold a convex polygon. So for whatever reason, I work in 3D graphics. I understand the difference between concave and convex. But for some reason, I was thinking that it said it wanted a concave polygon.
Oh, interesting.
And I was for some reason I was thinking convex, and I was like, it looks like it can have like a home run, like a home plate from baseball.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a trapezoid, right?
Right.
So I don't know. It just for some reason it just didn't make sense to me, and that was actually one of the last things I did, which is funny because I think that in the remake, because ultimately what you do is you open the door and Lakmir comes out, and that's actually one of the first things you do in the remake there. So meeting Lakmir is actually I think they expect that to happen very early in Shadowgate.
Right. Either way, you put it in. Yeah, you see this magical wizard. He kind of gives you like a pep talk and like a scroll that gives you a spell.
Now, did you know how to read the scrolls?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, how would you read the scroll? You have a scroll in your inventory. What would you think
So the pro way to do it is not even to take it, and you just open it while it's on the ground, and then you can read it, and then it disappears, usually if it's a spell one.
Well, so what I did is I gathered all these scrolls, and I looked at the scroll, because that makes sense. Look at the scroll. What is written on it? You look at it. No, you open the scroll.
Yes. Because it's scrolled up. I don't... Anyways.
So I actually went and I had just like 4 scrolls in my inventory. I had no idea how to use them. And then I found out by accident. And then I'm just like, look at all these new spells that I've got.
I have to look up this quote because in that rope room also is probably the most important scroll in the game because it has a quote or it has like a little riddle that helps you to finish the final encounter. And it starts off 5 to find, 3 are 1. 1 gives access the bladed sun. Where is it? Hold on. The bladed sun. The silver orb to banish below. The staff of ages to vanquish the foe. Joining to the golden blade. The last to invoke the platinum horn. And you're like, what the hell are you talking about?
I am a sucker for cryptic poetry.
Yeah.
Oh, I did want to point out one thing. So we just crossed... the fire bridge where you need to use the
oh yes,
apparently there's like a fire drake there though.
If you try to open that door, a fire drake appears.
I never did that. I was just like, here, fire, take my frozen orb. Boom, move on to the next thing. So this what happens is you then cross another bridge and there's a troll. They call it a troll. Okay,
he's like a big lion man.
Now okay, let me put on my glasses.
Okay, let's see.
All right, so he wants gold coins, but it looks more like a lion to me. Now, I did read, I got into this game hard. The lore really interested me. So, I wanted to give a shout out to, I have his name here.
Reading Retro,
yep. Yes, on Twitter. Give him a follow. He's a fantastic guy. And he does a lot of retro books. that you can't find anywhere, and he's kind of like transcribing that and putting those out as free ebooks. So doing a great community service and kind of preserving this stuff. But he did have not translated in ebook form the Before Shadowgate, which is the book basically talking about the seed. The seed of the prophecy is basically you as a character, talking about your adventures to get to Castle Shadowgate.
I believe your name is LobosJr.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And so in his adventure, there is a book, or there is a race called the Tyans. That's Tyens, and they're described as a man crossed with a lion.
Oh.
And that is, I'm pretty sure that is actually a Tyan and not a troll.
Oh, damn.
If I want to go deep down the rabbit hole.
Damn.
But I think the book was written after the game. So maybe they just wanted to ascribe a concrete race to that there. But
yeah. Yeah, maybe they originally wanted to go with that, but it was like too specific, and people would be like, what the heck is a Tyan? I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so the troll will ask for money. If you use the copper coins, I think he's like, "What the heck is this? This is copper," and then he kills you.
Well, he doesn't kill you.
He doesn't?
He says he's like, the fee is now increased to 2 gold coins.
No, that's if you give him a gold coin.
Oh, is it?
If you give him a copper coin,
Okay.
I think he's like, "This is cheap," and like he like throws you off the bridge or
That's
removes
true.
the bridge. If you give him a gold coin, which you can get later, then he's like, "Oh, now it's 2 gold coins." And then you give him one more, and then I think he kills you anyway.
Yeah. And this is another area I got stuck on because I had a copper coin. So I was like, how do I get a gold coin? Maybe if I go back to the acid room or the sarcophagus, which has the acid thing, maybe I can like dissolve the copper coin and it turns out it's actually gold or something. No, that's not the case. You just stab him. Stab him with a spear.
Stab him with a spear. But he falls silently, and there's no thud.
And he
So you're
takes
like,
the spear with him.
Right.
Later on, he comes in. He now has the spear, and he's going to stab you with it. So it's kind of cool that he comes back. Although I had no idea what to do. I was like, great, I have no weapon now. He took it. And,
Yep.
Yeah. And so after that, you get to sort of like the courtyard of actual Castle Shadowgate, and there's this giant ogre thing. Cyclops. And what's sort of funny is essentially what you want to do there is you want to use the sling to throw a pebble at it, and as you're throwing it, it says like a magical force takes over your body, and you scream, "Death to the Philistines!" which is an obvious reference to David and Goliath. But apparently in later versions, they removed the word Philistines with, I think of like enemies or something like that, because they that was potentially offensive slander towards a culture there.
Sure.
It was kind of interesting. Again, we're talking about new Nintendo versus old Nintendo. So like this is the type of stuff you saw in the 80s. It's just a thing there.
Yeah.
But then he gets knocked out, and I didn't know that you could kill him.
Right, because he comes back.
He comes back, and I kept having to deal with him. But apparently you can stab him with a sword and kill him.
You can take the sword and stab him, and it says blood pours out onto the grass. And I remember that being so vivid in my memory, just like, I killed a man, the Cyclops man.
That's okay, because Cyclops was going to kill you anyway.
That's true. He was.
Now, I do want to note that throughout this game, you pick up a lot of items that are superfluous, I'd say, or very situational. So what we just picked up was a map. You can pick up some bellows here earlier in the dragon room. You can pick up some bones.
A poker, a cup, a mirror, I think a tapestry maybe. A skull. Yeah. All these things are actually just for a riddle to answer later in the game.
And you don't need all of them. And in fact, speedrunners, they try to manipulate the memory to know what question they're going to ask. So they just have to collect that one item. But the items you need for the Sphinx puzzles are the map, horseshoe, mirror, bellows, broom, and skull.
Right, the broom.
And so they'll all ask you riddles, think of like the Lord of the Rings Gollum type riddles where he's asking sort of cryptic things about the item you have.
Right.
And then you basically show the Sphinx the item, and he allows you to move on to the next room. After that, not after that, but still continuing on, we've left the the study, and you get to this laboratory, and this is a perfect example of misdirection, because there's a kennel, and if you open up the kennel, there's an animal that comes out and it will kill you. And also there's a little rock with like a handle thing on it, and if you look at it, it's like, oh, this handle is used to tie down the the
some
dog
sort of
or
wild
whatever.
animal.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, cool. And I'm thinking somehow I have to release the beast and then tie it down, but actually it's a handle, and you can lift up the rock with the handle.
See, I always thought it was an indentation and you like pushed a button, but I don't know. You never know.
Yeah,
it's always hard to tell. But
in any case, that was one that I would not have figured out. I had to look it up, because a lot of times with adventure games, the way you perceive the room is reality, and you're like, okay, I know for a fact, and you make these assertions, and sometimes it's very hard to just remove any preconceived notions about the room and like explore it as someone coming in for the first time. So ultimately what you have to do is you have to, for a later puzzle, you have to open up this rock, and it actually has some holy water in there.
Yep, holy water. Also, there's this really cool like big basin or vase thing that has like this water in it that I always loved, because if you drink it, you grow like blue hairs on your palms. And I don't know. That was always a vivid memory as well.
Now I see you have some of the riddles up. Do you want to read us a couple?
Well, let's bring them out when the Sphinx comes out, because we skipped an important room.
Okay.
Especially for glitches.
Oh.
The room where you pick up. There's a bunch of scrolls, and there's this book that you can't read. It's got all sorts of weird text in it. But in the drawer underneath the book, there's these glasses, and so you put on the glasses, and you can read the book, and you learn a spell. But there's a glitch where only with the glasses, once they're in your inventory, you can take them again, and it adds them to your inventory. And then you can take the glasses, and then you can take the glasses, and then take the glasses. And you keep doing that, and you can fill up your entire inventory and beyond that as well, such that it overflows, and you start just kind of looking at items in memory. And if you know what you're doing, you can pull out all of the items you need to finish the game, and then just kind of rush to the end, speedrun style.
Apparently, there are items that are actually cut from the game that show up in that list.
Oh, cool!
I didn't verify that. But.
Yeah, I haven't explored it very much, but I tried it yesterday, and I just grabbed at like some of it will have text of item names, some of it will be blank. So I took a blank one, and it started reading off the text of like the end of the game. And I thought it was going to end the game, but it didn't. It infinitely looped that. So.
That stuff is very dangerous. Can crash your game there. So you want to make sure to have a save state there.
Oh yeah,
that you're doing there. So this is the room here. There's 3 doors, and there's a rug there. And this is the room where you actually do need to burn the rug to find a key. And I like that, because in the first, I think there's 3 rugs prior to this that you can burn, or 2 rugs prior to this you can burn, and there's nothing under there. But the third one has it. So you feel sort of, I love that when it's like you just keep doing the thing. You're like, somewhere there's got to be a thing for me there.
You get rewarded for it. This is another case where as you like transition into or out of the screen, you can see the hole in the rug just like there. For a brief second. Yeah, you can even see it there in the video. And I think that's what clued me in, either the first time I was playing or like a replay much later, something like that.
Now, I want to talk about the books again, because we just hit you go up up through a door and up through some stairs, and you go out to this balcony, and you see these mountains and a lightning bolt. Now, in the book, I believe these are called... so the mountain that the castle is on is called Gatekeeper Mountain, and it's described that there are other foothills around here. So I think I like to call these the Gatekeeper Mountains.
Ah, okay, and makes sense.
Yeah, it's just kind of add some lore into here.
Heck yeah!
But you go out onto this balcony, and there's a pot of gold, which actually looks more like a Metal Gear ration to me.
Looks like a drum to me.
Yeah, I can see that. And if you try to pick that up, you fall to your death. And it says something like, the classic gold on a platform death. It's like, oh, you should have known that.
You should have known.
Yeah.
And next to it, there's a bag. And in the bag are some very important items. There's one big coin, and then there are several gold coins. And so you need at least one gold coin and the big coin to progress through the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love this. It seems that the alligators really enjoy your company.
Yeah, so I
when you
did.
fall
I did
into
on
them.
video. Picked up the thing, the
Yep.
gold thing, and the fall to my death. And this actually kind of made me wonder: is like, is this the evil wizard that is, or the evil warlock that's setting up this trap here, or how did this come to be?
Yeah, I don't know. Shadowgate is just full of traps. I think at some point they insinuate that they're his traps, but
Sure. And
why
also,
would you have a
I
castle?
absolutely
and not-
love. I want to talk about D&D for a little bit,
Okay.
because I absolutely love the small dungeons that have a ton of traps.
Mhm.
There's the very famous D&D module. Oh, what's it called? It's the one we did the speed run on. But
Castle Strahd or
no,
no?
it's
it's
I
it's
wish
the
I
vampire
remember.
one, isn't it?
No, it was the
No?
one where you basically walk in. There's like a grinning maw, and you stick your hand in. There's an orb of annihilation. Tomb of Horrors. Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's just like it's such a tight area. There's no fluff. Every single thing is dangerous, and that's that's Shadowgate.
Yeah.
And it's just everything will kill you, and it just like every room has a potential trap there,
Right.
or an item for you to pick up, and I absolutely love that there.
Things to do, yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I think we just went to the skeleton. Oh, we're just getting to the skeleton now. So this is the king, the last king.
He's a skeleton wearing a little king crown, and he has this big axe in his right hand.
I would call it a halberd.
A halberd. Yeah, you're right. Totally.
That's
a halberd
right,
in the
I'm right.
hand. Yep. And the left hand is empty, and he's sitting on this throne, and he's just kind of stationary.
Yeah.
And so
you take
can
the scepter.
Yeah. So if you look at the scepter, it says something about being like royal or for a king. So you're like, okay. So you try and you put the scepter into his left hand, and then this panel on the right slides down. And it doesn't try very hard to make you think about this one, because it says it reveals a ring-shaped hole, and you're like,
Yeah, but
except
at
if you
the
don't
same
have the
time,
ring.
at the same time, I didn't have a ring.
True. That's true.
But I did pick up a talisman / crest
Right,
before, so I was convinced. I was like, all right, well, I see a crest on the wall. The crest lowered, and I now have a insert to put something there. So I got to put a crest there, but that was not the case. So I spent actually quite a while, because again, I didn't have the ring.
Right, we didn't get the ring
situation
yet.
there.
Yeah. So the ring is actually next to the room with the wild dog in it and the button on the ground. You go outside into another courtyard, and there's this fountain, and it's beautiful and all this stuff, and there's a flute atop the fountain, and you're like, oh sweet, well, I'll take the flute.
Yeah.
Well, if you didn't already get the silver gauntlet, which is somewhere else, you grab it, and it's like, oh, it turns out the fountain was acid, and now your hand is burned off, and then you like bleed to death or something.
Of course.
Yeah.
I did not have the gauntlet because, again, I'm going to keep hammering on this.
Hammer
the
away.
way that you get the gauntlet is not intuitive, because so let's step up a little bit back to the courtyard where there's the Cyclops there.
Mhm.
There's a well there, and there's a bucket that you can put down and then raise up again. And I'm like, great, what's in the bucket? Look at the bucket. It's like, it's a bucket. It's like, okay, well, maybe I need to get water at some point there. No, you have to open the bucket.
You have to open the bucket, even though there's visibly no lid on the bucket or anything.
So you open the bucket, and it's like, oh, there's a gauntlet here.
It's generally how they make things that have their own inventory work. You have to open them, and then So.
That's okay. This game's still amazing.
I love it. I love it.
absolutely love it.
That's the kind of thing I look back and I laugh on, because it's like, I mean, it makes sense now. And man, I was such a sucker. Oh, here we go.
So I finally figured out how to read the scrolls here. So I actually spent some time just reading all the scrolls I have, and then I increased my arsenal of spells, which is really great.
Oh yeah.
So while we're reading, I thought it'd be great to do another quote here.
Let's do it.
So yeah, let's take a look at this. Okay, so apparently you can use the sword on yourself, and in English it says, you thrust sword into your chest. Blood begins to flow. Suicide won't help in your quest. The warlock lord will surely triumph now. In Japanese it says, I thrust the sword's blade into my left breast. Blood pours out of the wound. Ah, how could I be so foolish? I took my own life with my own hand. The world will surely be cloaked in darkness after I die.
Wow.
So
Damn,
again,
deep.
a lot of these are I think when they were translated, they were actually intended to be more whimsical.
Yeah.
And that was the intent by the localization. Whether or not they understood the serious nature of this game, or maybe they wanted to throw a different spin on it. But yeah, apparently this game's looked at as sort of a joke in Japan there.
Yeah, yeah. Poor Japan.
Yeah. Now, okay, so we did just get to the Sphinx.
Yeah, so we get to the Sphinx, and let me just, I gotta bust this out here because you see on this staircase next to the Sphinx these symbols, and these symbols are actually a clue to a puzzle much later on. And I have these as a tattoo on my arm because when I was a kid, I played this a bunch with my brother, and we had this like etched onto our Nintendo so that we would remember whatever.
So please tell me that when you played this again, you looked at your arm.
Of course, every single time I play this, I go, look, I have the clue right here on my arm. And
that's some like Prison Break stuff right there. I don't know if you ever seen that.
No, I haven't actually.
Oh, because he gets the schematics of the whole prison tattooed on his back and his body there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's this Sphinx here, and you try to move past him, and he's silent otherwise. You can't speak to him. He's like, it's like he doesn't speak English or whatever. And as soon as you try to move past him, he's like, you must answer this riddle. And he gives you a random one, but there's a bunch of them. And the one that we just saw on screen was, I've no eyes, but once did see. Thoughts had I, but now I'm white and empty. Anyone? The answer is the skull, if you have that in your inventory. And I think one of my more favorite ones, well, actually, some of them are pretty tricky. I like, it has towns, but no houses, forests, but no trees, and rivers, but no fish. And you're like, the answer is a map. There's some good riddles there.
Good riddles there.
Won't spoil the rest.
You do need to, every time you go up past him, you have to answer a riddle. So it's not like you do it once and you're free there.
Oh, and if you answer incorrectly, he will teleport you to a random place like in the game.
Oh, I thought because he teleported me to the bridge, and then I got killed. So I figured that was like his. All right, go let the troll kill
go die. No, he'll teleport you to like random. I don't know how many different places he can teleport you, but yeah.
Now after that, you go in this room right here did it for me.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, this is everything I love in life here. So you go up, and it's this perfect culmination of like Lovecraftian, Gothic, astrology, everything combined into one room. Is absolutely phenomenal. So you go up into this room, and there's this telescope looking out into the stars, and then you see a map, and it's got these two planets that are aligning, and there's a shooting star. You have to pick that up. But I just like, this is what I really loved about this game is like, I don't know what, it's just like I love omens. I love portals to other dimensions. I love
who doesn't
astrology. As a fictional concept, not a real thing. But yeah, and like planets aligning to have evil deities, like amazing. And I was like, this is just such an amazing game.
Yeah. And this has one of the more, I think, annoying things to figure out, which was the star map. Once you take the star, you're like, okay, cool. I can't take the map under it. We're done here. Yeah. But you can open the map, and it slides down.
Actually, the funny thing is I had no problem with that one. So
I saw.
I was like, just open the map. What? Of course. Of course you open the map.
I guess at this point, you're like, just do everything to the thing.
Yeah, so. And then after that, you go up to the next room, and there's a woman who is chained to
a beautiful woman
who is chained, and she was wearing like kind of this silk negligee, I'd say,
like a nightgown thing,
and she's bound to the wall, and there to the right of her, honestly, this looks like a piece of like a toilet paper roll to me. I don't know what it was supposed to be.
It's a blade, like
nah, it doesn't look like a blade.
Like if you put it on a thing and like spun it, it would be like the bottom of a blender, like the blade of a blender or something.
See that, yeah.
Something like that. But anyways, you see this woman, you're like, oh, a woman in distress and this item that I need. Well, let me figure out after I take this item.
Let me get the item first and then deal with you later.
So you grab it, and she turns into a werewolf or whatever and pounces on you.
Let me just get technical.
Oh.
Just for a second here. So what happens is she turns into a werewolf, right, and bites your throat out. But the description of the room is... okay, so it clearly states that she's bathed in moonlight. Okay, that's very important. And And then when you get close to her, she turns into a wolf. And furthermore, to actually kill her, you use a silver arrow.
Right.
So I think we can make the assumption this is a werewolf. But Moonlight is supposed to be the thing that takes you out of your human form and makes you a wolf. So it's almost like it was backwards. And I was like, because I think I suspected something was up. I was like, okay, there's a woman that's chained there. Of course, something's going to happen. And I was like, well, I think it should have been the other way around.
Yeah.
But whatever. Yeah. Well, I want to, I want to be very technical about this. We're talking about serious
that's right.
ramifications in fantasy lore.
Oh man, so then you come back here.
I come back
so
here.
So at one point in the game, once you have the wand, you have to backtrack all the way almost to the beginning to these two bridges. One of them was very rickety and you couldn't cross. And there's a bunch of bottles you can pick up. There's 5 different bottles you can pick up in the game, I think. Maybe 6.
I think 5 is right.
And there's only one that you ever need, and it's bottle 2. And that allows you to float into the air if you drink it while you're next to this rickety bridge.
Do you know if that actually consumes the bottle?
It does.
Okay, but so you could get into a situation where you use all the number 2s without giving the item.
There are 2 bottle 2s, I think, in the game. And I believe if you use it, cross it, don't do anything, go back, and use it, cross it, don't go anything, go back, then I think you're screwed.
Okay.
So if you come here without the wand, then yeah, maybe you get soft locked. But you need to. There's a big snake, and it turns out it's like a snake statue. But you use the wand on it, and it kind of shrinks and turns into this staff. And now you've collected one of the vital pieces.
Yeah, it's like a druidic staff. And actually, it wasn't until I rewatched the video to take some notes here that I noticed the bridge actually has, like, the posts are 2 snake things kind of spiraling up.
Little serpent pillars.
And again, that's kind of a subtle clue. They really just look like posts until you look at them like, wait a minute, this looks like a snake head. And you're like, oh, okay. Because on the other end, like you said, there's a snake there. So that was a nice little, like, oh yeah, this is the snake bridge there.
Yeah.
So eventually, I'm kind of like doing this in haphazard order.
Hey,
if I knew all the solutions, we would be like, boom, this room, you do all this. But I'm kind of going all over the place, which I think is cool. Because so eventually, I find out that I need to place the orb back in the secret room we were talking about next to the Epor.
The blue gem.
The blue gem.
Yep.
And I meet the wizard Lakmir, and he gives you the spell Humana. And this is actually necessary because like Lobos said, you have to back out of the castle to get the staff. But then if you try to immediately go back, you encounter the troll.
Right.
So what you need to do is make sure that you get Humana, and you can cast that. Then it allows you to go past the troll, and now you can finally enter the castle with the druidic staff we just picked up.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, the arrow, which again, you find that arrow back in one of the secret rooms where we talked about earlier. If you try to climb up the ledge, it breaks down. There's an arrow on that side. So I guess you stab.
You just plunge it into her. You just stab her.
I imagine you kind of like holding it at your chest and just like running full speed at this thing.
But you managed to stab the werewolf with the arrow before it pounces on you.
And if you look at it, it's like, this is just your typical dead werewolf. And I'm like, what? What? How is that typical?
It's typical, you know. Yeah, you know how it is.
For as much as this game revels in these really grim descriptions, I like the idea of just like, it's a dead werewolf. You've seen it before. Nothing special there. Now, this is another area. We're back into the study room that has the fireplace. And if you look at this globe, it says there you can see a crack there. And I was like, oh man, how do you open it? I was thinking because there's the poker nearby, so I was like, maybe you can like wedge that in.
Yep.
Ultimately, you have to use that Terra Terrak spell because it's the globe, it's the Earth globe, and so you use the Terra thing, and then it opens up the crack, and you can get a key number 6, right? Is that what we just picked up? Yeah, key number 6 and bottle number 5,
which is pointless.
This is not needed there.
Some of them have cool effects, like you drink them and like, oh, this happens. One of them just straight kills you.
Yep.
And you're like, all right, whatever. And so we got some extra items there, and now we're returning to the room with the 3 doors, and we go in the top left, which is the only one we haven't explored yet.
Yeah.
And there's
you
a
see
horn.
I would call it like a conch horn, I guess, maybe, because it's got this spiral, or like a French horn.
Yeah,
maybe.
it looks like kind of like a French horn a little bit, but yeah, just a straight horn and or this curved horn, and you try and take it, and this hellhound appears. And what do you do? Now there is a misleading thing here because you have holy water.
I didn't have it yet.
Okay, but
yes.
What you're supposed to do is use holy water on this hell demon, right? But it doesn't call it holy water until you use it. And the entire the rest, maybe if you look at it, but the entire rest of the time, it's called water.
So if you look at it, it says that it has a cross on it.
Oh, okay.
But that's, it doesn't specifically say it's holy water.
Yeah. So it doesn't say holy until you actually use it on him, and then it says you use the holy water on him.
Put my D&D glasses on again here. So again, this is one where I was kind of like finicky on the lore, because when you think about holy water, it's like, well, that's good for undead and stuff like that. I wouldn't necessarily think hellhound, because hellhound in the D&D universe, and I realize it's a different fictional world, right? And they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's clear inspiration there. So hellhound's kind of a magical beast. It's not really undead. So I wasn't immediately thinking like, okay, holy water for the hellhound.
Right.
I actually don't know what the rules are in a more like a fantasy setting is on that. But ultimately, you throw it on it, and it doesn't kill it. It just sends it back to where it came from.
Banishes it, and it can't appear again.
Yeah.
So that allows you to take the horn, and then you're good.
Yeah. And then after that, you go up into this place with a wire. Oh man, do I have to do this again? Okay. So they call it a dragon, but then they immediately call it a wyvern.
Oh.
And it looks more like a wyvern to me. Good. So I'm going to go exactly.
Wyvern has 2 legs and wings and no front legs.
I just want to reassert, I absolutely love this game. I still like to kind of pick at its loose fiction there. So yeah.
Oh wait, it has front legs. But we can't see if it has.
So it is a dragon.
It could be long and have like 6 legs or 8 legs. You don't know.
But then if you look at it, it does say it's a wyvern. Or if you like shoot the star. So ultimately, that star that we picked up in that observatory, you have to use the star at the wyvern, which I'm not quite sure, because what happens is...
Oh, it says it's a distant cousin of a dragon.
Yeah,
so
it did introduce it as a dragon, though, at the very beginning. It's like you go and there's a big dragon.
Well, that's before you look at it.
Oh,
so
okay.
you're just like...
I see.
First
so you're
impressions.
like, first impression. That's a dragon. It's like, well, okay, no, technically now I'm looking at it's a wyvern.
Yeah, there you go.
You rolled your perception. That's a wyvern. Okay, I will get on board with that. So yeah, you use the star on it, and it kind of... It turns into like a fireball.
It comes alive. You throw it, and then it bursts into flames and becomes this like fireball projectile, and then it says that the wyvern explodes into a million pieces or whatever.
Yeah, and then you're free to take this talisman. And ultimately, the talisman is the top. No. That is a thing you use later on to insert into.
It's one of the 5 items. It's the key. It's the key to get into the final area.
Yeah. So again, backtracking a little bit, we're finally getting to that part where there's the gauntlet. I picked up the gauntlet, and I'm gonna go use that on the water fountain. And it was
you
actually
put it on yourself.
Oh, you put it on yourself. Yeah. You don't use it on the water fountain. You use it on yourself, and then I guess you just permanently have a gauntlet on your hand.
If you look at yourself, it will tell you about everything you've equipped.
Oh,
yeah, it'll say you're a mighty fine warrior, and then it'll say you are wearing the cloak. You are wearing the glasses.
By the way, is the cloak used for anything?
The cloak allows you to traverse that fiery bridge area where you throw the sphere down, the cold sphere.
Oh.
Otherwise, it would say, it's too hot and you have to turn back. But you probably just put the cloak on immediately.
That's right, because I actually had that as a note. It was a little bit weird because when I entered, and immediately it said, it's too hot, have to turn back. But I feel like then all I did was re-enter, and it's like, great, you're fine. But maybe I did put a cloak on there.
As far as I know, you need the cloak.
So I did find the ring here, and this is in the fountain room. And I only found it by chance because when I picked up the flute from the acidic fountain, the first thing was just like, I don't know, let's
see what it does, right?
Play the flute, and it opens up a secret like
little compartment in the tree.
In the tree, yeah.
And there's a ring in there.
There's a ring, so that ring goes right where you'd think it, in the ring slot.
Ring hole.
And so you've basically completed the castle portion of the game. As you put the ring in there, a floor opens up and you go into the deep seedy underbelly of Castle Shadowgate.
Yep. And the first room that you come to is kind of this big stone room. And at this point, on the first playthrough, a lot of times like you're kind of low on torches, and this room has 4 torches, so you're like, yes.
Although I actually stopped using torches. Because what I found was that when you die, you sort of have like you reset your torch counter,
right?
Or your time for the torch. So I just kind of like, all right, do my things in the room, let myself die, and then when I spawn back, I know exactly what to do there.
Right. Yeah. In this, you can't actually get fully soft locked by running out of torch
which is really
time.
nice because you can see a situation where you're completely out of torches and you just have to redo the whole game.
I'm not sure, but I think you can actually lose in the remake if you run out of time.
Oh,
like I think you just die, and it's like, well, okay. And you might have I think I restarted at one point too because I was like, I want to do everything faster.
Yeah.
Anyways, in that room with the 4 torches, there's this passageway to the left, like a kind of underneath the stone or in the bottom of the stone. And if you go in there, then the stone collapses, and it's like all of your bones get crushed. Yay!
There's like a tripwire, I think you actually trigger.
Something like that. Oh, you hear a click.
Yeah. So you can only go one way into this room with some 2 gargoyles, and there's a room to your right, and there's a room straight ahead of you. And if you try to go to the room straight ahead of you, the gargoyles basically rip your body up. But what you can do...
And it says there's not enough of you left to feed to the birds. I love that.
How do you go to sleep after reading something like that as a kid?
Yep.
Well, anyway, you actually can use the Illuminaria spell. I think that's what it was called. And that blinds them for some time. And then you can go on to the next room where there's a well with a door to the left.
Right.
And that door to the left it's not used for anything. You cannot get into it. It's locked. It might as well not exist.
And I think I don't remember, but I feel like I remember at some point you can hear something from the other side of the door. Like there's something you can do, and it says you hear a faint scratching or like a muffled voice, but you can never get in there. So it's like
interesting.
That was always creepy to me, but maybe I'm thinking of a different one.
Yeah. Now, if you go into so you open up the well, and you can actually throw a coin. So you in the bag that you got the 3 gold coins, you also got a big coin. If you actually look at the big coin, it says there's an image of a well on it. I don't think I looked at that. But I guess the way I was thinking, I was like, okay, it's a well. It's like a wishing well. Throw a coin in there. Yep. And so what happens is there's like a tornado thing that comes up, or a gust of air. They call it a wind devil.
Dust devil.
Dust devil, yeah. And that allows you to fall safely into this river area that has a gong and a mallet nearby. Yep. And it's like, okay, I know that you got to use the mallet to hit the gong, but at the same time, I just wanted to hit the gong with my fist to see what would, if anything, would happen. Yep. I think hit is actually used only once in the game.
For the secret wall.
The secret wall back behind the waterfall. And then there's another verb called leave, which I don't think is used anywhere in the game.
Leave is to leave items behind.
Yeah. I tried to, actually during the last fight, I tried to leave my completed staff behind. It's like, wait a minute.
It won't let you do that.
Don't do that.
But you could leave behind, like, I think, bottle 5, like things that you don't need to use. It's like inventory cleanup.
That would be nice if I would have done that, because by the time I'm near the end of the game here, I've probably got 5 or 6 pages of inventory stuff.
Yeah, and every time you look for an item, it's like scroll. On the screen, anyways, you're on this cavernous lake area, and there's like the gong and the mallet nearby. And this is one of the only screens you actually have to use something from the screen on something in the screen. And I remember that being like something you had to kind of try for the first time. You're like, oh, okay. So you use the mallet on the gong right next to it, and then this ferryman arrives.
Yeah, I think this is Charon.
Yeah,
I think so, and because I believe that's the river Styx. I mean, it fits it checks all the D&D lore. Actually, it's not D&D lore, but anyway, because he kind of holds out his hand, and you're like, okay, I'll give him some gold coins, and Charon will, I think it's 2 gold coins, and he'll ferry you across the
it's just one, but
just one.
If you come back, then you have to pay him again to go across.
You actually don't. No,
you don't.
You might be able to, but you can just click move and then on him there.
Nice.
And so you enter the second to final, the penultimate screen in the game here. And funny thing is, I was reading that before Shadowgate book, right? And in that book, they actually have hints at the end of the
for the game.
Some of the chapters they have hints. and all they do is they like give you the solution, and they they make it upside down.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And one of the hints was like, use the talisman on the sword alcove, and it's like that is one of the biggest things that you should not spoil, and that was like the end of chapter 3.
Oh my gosh.
So I actually did get kind of spoiled on that one. But did
you use it on the wrong ones?
I did.
Okay.
And it does kill you.
The giant skull door shoots eye beams at you, and it's like melts you.
Now I don't think that's that tricky of a puzzle, because it's like, well, there's 3 options and only one works, so you could conceivably just try it by trial and error. But I didn't actually have all the items I needed. I still needed the silver orb.
So you backtrack to where those gargoyles were. You go to the right of them, and there's this big lava area with this creepy statue that's got like kind of like an insectoid face. And it's kind of misleading because you have to use the spell Motari Riseth here, and there's something that's already risen. And what you're doing is you're rising a bridge out of the lava, and then
lowers the statue.
Yeah, so it's like, whatever. And then that takes you to this chamber with the 3 switches where we need to use that clue from the Sphynx Room.
Now I was stuck here. Because when I went to the Sphynx Room, I'm like, okay, I see this thing. It's kind of front center. It's hard to miss.
Yep.
But at the same time, it was multiple days, and I'd forgotten.
Yep.
Even though I'm like, okay, remember. And so I actually had to look that up on the internet. I'm like, oh yeah, I go to this spot here. And ultimately, what I do is you get that silver orb. You place so you take the staff, you place the blade on the staff, you place the orb on the staff, and now you have the final weapon.
The Staff of Ages.
Staff of Ages.
Remade, reborn forever.
Yeah. And then you don't need to assemble it before you encounter the wizard, but you need it to beat the game at least. So you go in there, and the wizard comes up, and he's got his little staff, and they have this thing that they call the Behemoth. It's this pinkish thing with like the sharp teeth, drool coming out of his mouth. Kind of actually looks like a dragon. It's got like points on its wings, like spikes on the ends of the wings there. And you can kind of just sit here and not do anything. But if you use the wrong stuff, the wizard will shoot his fire burst at you and kill you.
Yep. I remember the first time we figured out the whole staff thing. We were like, oh, nice. And then we went into the fight, and we used the staff on the wizard, and he gets you first, and you're like, dang it.
Yeah.
So you use the staff on the Behemoth, and then the Behemoth kind of goes wild with rage, grabs the evil warlock lord, and descends into the depths.
Yeah. He screams in agony, thrashes, and probably rips the evil warlock into so many pieces that even the birds can't feast on him there.
Can't be fed by him.
And that's kind of it.
That's the final thing you do.
Yeah, you complete the game, and you go back to the kingdom, and the king is just like, "Hey, good job.
You can have my daughter as your wife."
Because why not? Also, she's a werewolf, so please.
What?
That's right. Yeah, because there is like a little. It kind of
looks like her.
Yeah.
You see her back there, but there's some just general triumphant text while it's saying like the bards will tell the songs of your adventures and all this.
Yeah.
And then it ends with one of my favorite quotes, and it just says, "The first stories end." And there was a Shadowgate 64. That's a good one. I don't know if you played it.
We played it a little bit. We ought to play it again some other time. There's also Beyond Shadowgate as well.
A game?
Yeah.
Shit, I need to play that.
Yeah.
I need to go play that.
One thing that I forgot to mention, but I think it's really cool to just explain why we're doing all this stuff. So a little bit of lore here. It's covered in the book, but also a little bit in the game. So essentially, there's in the Castle Shadowgate, there's a group of wizards. They're called the Circle of 12. Again, this is all explained more in the remake there. And so there was one of the wizards became corrupt, and he called himself the warlock lord. He started causing chaos between like elves, humans, and whatever. And so what they ended up doing, the Circle of 12 kind of banished them, or banished the warlock there. And then over time, they kind of disappeared, and so the only wizard that remained was Lakmir. And ultimately, that's the one that kind of helps you on this adventure. So to seal the evil once and for all.
Nice.
So that is Shadowgate. There actually isn't
That's it.
any credits. There, it's just kind of.
So I remember there was an entry into Nintendo Power where they would do this thing where they would say, guess what the end credits screen this is, and this was one of them because it's kind of obscure. It just says the first story's end.
Yeah.
It shows your inventory and stuff, so if you're familiar with it. But this game was made by Kimco Seika, I believe, and there are 2 other games at least that are adventure games like it. Deja Vu, Uninvited, also very good if you want to play those. The Shadowgate remake, I would highly recommend if you like this kind of game.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, so that's the end of Shadowgate. Thanks for everyone for watching there.
Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, and so the next thing is we just wanted to give a special shout out to some of our new Patreons for the last episode there. It's really great to see some great support from everyone there. And reminder, if you are interested in supporting us on Patreon, you can head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Gaming Show. A lot of cool rewards there. We got a Discord channel. You can interact with people. Actually, it was really cool. I was last night playing an upcoming game for our show, and I was stuck on a puzzle, and we had some members of the community trying to help me figure out what the solution was. So that was really great. But yeah, in no particular order, we have Brisk Mountain, Anif, Pastry Pirate, Atalivox?
Ativalox?
Thank you. And Digital Deviant. So thank you, everyone, so much for supporting us. It's amazing to see your support, and we're really honored to be able to entertain you here.
Yeah, thank you guys. And it's totally up to you. Ryne takes a lot of his time to do all this stuff, and I just think that he should also get something for this, And
I get the love from Lobos and love from everyone.
You do
else,
get that. You do get that. And there's also like behind the scenes footage and stuff. Pretty much every episode we're recording behind the scenes. So if you want to see that up. Sweet goodness.
The other thing that's really great about that is we do have a Discord channel for the next game. So not the next game, but the next game. So people on the Discord are able to actually get idea of what we're going to be playing.
Kind of a heads up.
Little preview there.
Let's talk about the Hall of Heroes for this week. Yeah, let's pull those up.
The Hall of Heroes is a chance for you to flex your gamer cred. Each episode, simply play and beat the game.
Yes.
Then take a snap of the credit screen along with your name somewhere nearby and upload it to Imager, and then shoot a link over to Saturday Morning Gaming Show at gmail.com.
Yeah, so let's go for this week. We've got Herotham here. See, screenshot of the end screen and your tag or whatever. Herotham says, an old classic and the first point-and-click adventure game I ever played. Still remembered the solutions after all those years.
That's awesome.
Very memorable. Very memorable. Nonsense Megia. I really enjoyed my first Shadowgate playthrough and can see why Lobos loves it so much. It was really fun trying everything on self, even only using self. Yeah, if you use self, it says, what odd behavior for such a brave warrior. I was not expecting that to be in a game for the NES from back then. Awesome game suggestion, and hopefully it won't be my last submission since school is starting up again soon. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nonsense Megia. Alamaxia. Holy trip down memory lane. I'm super excited for this week's show. You guys are putting on a really fun production. Keep it up.
Yeah, Alamaxia actually sent us 2 images. One was a picture of the Shadowgate game.
Oh, nice.
And then
the
one was him
cartridge.
actually completing the game. So
awesome.
that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Gaming Steiner, another one for the Hall of Heroes, took on Shadowgate and won. Love the classics. Thank you, Gaming Steiner and Brisk Mountain. Of course, not even going to lie, I couldn't get through this without some help online. Thank you, Internet.
It's a fun game.
Yep.
It's a fun game.
No worries there.
And I think the last image we have the current standings of the Hall of Heroes. Yeah. All right. Cool. At number 14, it's a 4-way tie. Alamaxia,
five-way tie.
Kihaku, Splov 1, Detache Senpai, and the Kyle Mack all have 5 points. And actually, Alamaxia is a new entrance to the Hall of Heroes, so we welcome them.
Nice, welcome. And number 9, we've got Yoshi 355, Lulu Kachu, Jazz Never Sleeps, and Dog Type with 10 points.
Sitting all by themselves at number 5 is Tobanaga with 15 points.
Tied at number 4, Harotham and Nonsense Megia with 30 points.
And continuing to lead at a dead even pace here, we've got Gaming Steiner and Brisk Mountain at 35 points.
Woo. Yeah, thank you guys so much. So what are we going to do next week?
So this is an interesting one. If you remember back when we started talking about the show, we always said we want the games to be 20 years old or more, but that's not a hard and fast rule. And we're actually going to break it this week, the next show, because I think this game is retro enough, and it's sort of a big event.
It's going to be relevant to what's going on.
What game is it?
So we're going to be talking about Vanilla World of Warcraft.
Yes. Oh, what that's going to be a 10-hour episode.
That's going to be a 10-hour episode.
Guaranteed.
Practically.
Yeah.
Because that comes out in 2 days. 2 days, and everybody's going to be jumping back into Vanilla WoW. Yeah. And I'm going to be playing it.
It's going to be great. And actually, we'd love to have you come join us. There's all the information you need if you want to group up with us and with other members of the community. I really recommend you head on over to our Discord. We've got a channel on there ready to go for people to create characters. We got server information, anything you want. Meet some new friends. It would be great to see you all there.
Heck yeah. And we're going to have an interesting kind of point allocation for that as well. So I think up to level 20 max, you'll get a point for every 5
points for every
5 points
levels.
For every 5 levels.
Yeah.
So total of 20 points for the whole thing. Yep. Capped at 20 because for 2 weeks it's 20 levels.
We don't want to burn you out.
Lot.
We want you to have fun when you're playing these retro games and not be worried too much about hitting that max level there.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Well, sadly, we have reached the end credits of this episode, but we wanted to thank everyone for watching us on Twitch, twitch.com/LobosJr, or listening to us on the podcast.
Yep. Our Twitch airs every other Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Central U.S. time, and the podcast releases the following Saturday. So make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google, whatever you choose to listen to us on.
Actually, let's redo that because I messed up.
Uh-oh.
It's following Sunday.
Oh.
So let's just...
Okay.
Let's just have you read that again.
I'll read that again, and you'll edit out in post.
Or will
Because this is a
I?
podcast.
It's going to make you look like an idiot. You don't know what date is.
Wow. All right. Our Twitch airs every other Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Nope. Central Daylight Time. Now you're
if
the
somebody
one
listens to this in like 6 months, it'll be standard time.
Okay, just say, I don't know.
Our Twitch airs every other Saturday, 9:30 Central U.S. time, and the podcast releases the following Sunday. So make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google, or whatever platform you choose.
If you have any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Just shoot us an email at SaturdayMorningGamingShow@gmail.com.
Or follow us on Twitter at SaturdayMGaming.
And a special shout out to TechnoAxe for much of the music this episode.
For Saturday Morning Gaming, I'm Lobos.
And I'm Ryne. We'll see you September 7th for Episode 7, World of Warcraft Classic.
Dum, dum, dum.
That was good. Good job, man.
Good job, everybody.
We had
First
a lot
try.
of fun here.
First try. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining us. Hope you enjoyed Shadowgate.
I enjoyed Shadowgate.
Yes. So as far as my stream plans, I'm going to actually be heading out to talk about house stuff because I'm actually really... We've got a house that we're looking at, and we're going to talk details and see if we can make that happen. Because, as you may have noticed, we were dropping a lot of frames during this stream, and the internet in this area is just garbo. So I'm going to try and fix that in an extreme way, even though it's also a good chance to move because I've been in this house for a while. So
we're going to try. He's going to try to speed run that house. Usually it's going to take a month to secure that loan and everything. We're going to try to do it in 2 days.
We're going to try and do it in 2 days.
Yep.
And yeah.
You got your ski mask with you?
Oh, don't tell them that. What are you...
Wait, did you not turn that? Oh, stop recording.
No,
shut this down.
Oh my God. You know what? I didn't record the video part of this. Whoops. But we have the VOD. Worst case scenario.
That's okay. Yeah.
Just
shoot me the
friendly.
VOD.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, thank you guys. So I will update you guys on Twitter once I'm done with the house stuff. It might be a couple of hours depending on what goes on, but I'm gonna go do that. We're gonna see what happens, and then we'll probably play some more Remnant from the Ashes.
I heard that game's good.
It's pretty good. Yeah. It's pretty good, and it's co-op and stuff. So yeah. Cool. I think that's it. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. We'll see you.
See you later. Bye-bye.